Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Today is Monday, June the 19th, 2017. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now let's talk about Kovalev briefly. What I'm going to do here, just to keep the conversation reality-based, and I've read a lot of comments online, is in the comment section to this video, I'm going to pin at the top of it what I feel is dispositive tape of the end of the Kovalev fight. Right? What I want viewers to do is to just look at the film. Understand, I believe the film trumps all of the other arguments. Right? Look at the film and decide for yourself whether or not the last punch thrown by Andre Ward is a low blow. Right? I don't want to hear stuff about what Kovalev's gotten away with in the past, or, stuff about, Tony Weeks being a good guy, the referee, and things like that. The bottom line is this. People make mistakes. It happens. In the sport of boxing, we don't tolerate low blows. Right? That's the beginning and end of the argument as I see it. Right? So I want you to look at that film and just ask yourself whether or not it's a low blow. If you saw that punch thrown in the rematch of Anthony Joshua versus Vladimir Klitschko, right? I'm just using that as a much anticipated fight, right? That's a rematch like this one, where viewers want someone to win the fight in the proper way. By the proper way, I'm talking about in accordance with the rules of boxing. Now, if you saw this punch, right, and the film is going to be in the comment section to this video, I'll pin it at the top. If you saw this punch, and if the fight ended on this punch, would you feel that the ending was legit? Now, it's interesting here because to me the answer is clear as day. To the guys in the crowd, this is one of those rare times where I'm just going to focus on guys because I believe physically it matters here. If you were hit where Kovalev is hit, right, would you consider that to be a low blow? Let me also say, too, that as you're watching the film, right, this is really all you need to know on the issue. As you're watching the film, I want you to focus on the letters on Kovalev's trunks, right? There are letters written across the front of his trunks. I'm not talking about letters written on his belt line. I'm talking about letters on his trunks that are below his belt line. As you watch the video, look at those letters and see where the punch lands. Right? Now, I'm not here claiming that anyone had evil intentions, but just understand at that moment in the fight, Ward had been warned twice. I would argue that if you look at, for low blows, I would argue that if you look at a film of the fight, you're going to see other low blows. Right? This one is on film. It's an unobstructed camera view. Let me also point out, too, that I want you to look at where Kovalev's arm is. Right? I don't believe anyone has an argument that because of Kovalev's arm, right, the punch had to go south of the arm. Understand, if Kovalev has an arm in the way that would block a legal punch, then a punch south of that arm, right, would be illegal, and quite frankly would strengthen the side of the argument that claims that this fight was improperly stopped. Right now, in the last 24 hours, the head of the Nevada State Athletic Commission has said that he's looked at the film. Great. If he's looked at the relevant film, it would include this angle, wouldn't it? He claims, preliminarily, he sees nothing wrong with the film. Now, I want the people who are custodians of the sport, right, who've been bestowed the privilege of actually policing the sport of boxing, a sport that predates all of us by generations, right? I want them to really think hard here about whether or not they're going to put the credibility of the sport going forward at risk over a fight like this, right? In other words, if the tape shows an infraction, that's what should be called. As I've pointed out in an earlier video, the referee doesn't have the authority. He doesn't have the power. We haven't given him the power to overlook low blows. Let me also say, too, that when there are bad rulings, it leads some fans, let me wave my hand, to conclude that a fighter hasn't earned the win, right? Because, quite frankly, I've watched too many fights, right? I've been here online commenting on too many fights in which a fighter who looked out of it has made a comeback. Most recently, that Anthony Joshua-Vladimir Klitschko fight. Joshua's dead on his feet, in my opinion, in the 6th round. He comes back, gets 2 knockdowns in the 11th round, and then stops Vladimir Klitschko. Right? Let me just say, thank goodness that fight was in Wembley and not before the people who seem to be reviewing this fight. Right? You cannot, no matter how charismatic, no matter how well-spoken a fighter is, you can't bend the rules because the ref's a good guy, the fighter's a good guy, and, you know, boxing needs role models. Right? That's what puts us in a position where fighters then start complaining, saying, hey, I beat these guys. Why am I not considered the best? Whereas fans are thinking to themselves, you know what, I saw a tape of the end of the fight. I don't understand what the ref was doing. Quite frankly, I don't even understand what the State Boxing Commission was doing. Right? That fight enters the iffy column. So, right? With an idea of preserving the integrity of the sport, right? With the idea of understanding that in a championship fight, we can't look the other way on infractions, even if the infractions were done with the best of intentions. Right? I encourage you to look at the film. I believe it speaks for itself. Right? I'll put my opinion in the comment section to this video, but don't let my opinion cloud yours. Right? But understand, it comes down to the tape. Not what kind of man each fighter is, not whether some fighter, you know, held the other guy's head down or something like that at some other part of the fight and stuff like that. That what goes around comes around argument doesn't work when you have a clear infraction that should have been dealt with by the referee. Right? Clear infraction that should have been dealt with. Right? The fact that it wasn't dealt with by the referee. The fact that no one in boxing can tell you with a straight face, yeah, it was a low blow, but I disregarded it because they know they can't acknowledge a low blow and disregard it in accordance with the rules of boxing. Speaks volumes. Let's talk about the best bets on the board. Understand, this is a gambling site. I'm not here trying to be a priest, a Boy Scout, right? No, this is really a gambling site. But understand, and I know this is counterintuitive, nobody wants sports to have more credibility than gamblers. The people who will blow the whistle first on some illegality taking place in sports that challenges the credibility of the outcome of the sports are gamblers, right? Because we're assessing the odds according to the rules, right? We don't want an unlevel playing field, right? Credibility is very important. The best bets on the board at casinos right now in the world of boxing, according to Richard Dwyer here online. I've mentioned before Adrian Broner against Mikey Garcia. Let me tell you, when I made that earlier Broner video, I never expected Adrian Broner to be a plus 500 underdog. 5-1 underdog? You're telling me that you really believe, let's just do the math, that if these guys fought 6 times, right, 5-1, if these guys fought 6 times, you're expecting Mikey Garcia with very limited experience at 140 pounds to beat Adrian Broner 5 of the 6 times? You gotta be kidding me. Right? Whoever you think wins the fight. Whoever you think wins the fight. When the casino gives you a plus 500 on someone like Adrian Broner, who, and I understand this is a point of view, I have, some of you don't, is defensively blessed. He is defensively blessed. And the fight's at 140, not 135. We're not expecting Broner to go down to Mikey's weight. Mikey's coming up in weight. And the casino is going to give you a plus 500 on Broner? What you need to do is to say, thank you very much. I'll take that. Right? You want to lock in the plus 500 right here as we get closer to the fight. But I'm expecting the odds to change because the plus 500 is ludicrous. Right? Broner to win. Simply to win. He doesn't even need a KO. They're giving you a plus 500. Right? As we get closer to the fight, we'll see some of the other props. Right? I suspect that there'll be a prop, Mikey Garcia by KO, that might be attractive as a hedge. Well, let's talk about another fight where I just cannot figure out how the casino came up with this line. Right? Of course, I'll be in line to take it. And it's another underdog. Right? Arthur Abraham. He's a plus 400 against Chris Eubank. Think about it. Now, Arthur Abraham has had a problem in fights, right, against mobile opponents. Gilberto Ramirez just schooled him. Right, was moving around the ring. Abraham, who's slow-footed, could not keep up. Right, Andre Durrell was schooling Arthur Abraham. Abraham could not keep up. Jermaine Taylor years ago was on the outside looking good against Arthur Abraham early. Then he faded a little bit. Abraham was able to close the gap. Then he was able to close the show. Right? Taylor's career has never been the same since. That's how hard Abraham hits. Now, I know here online I've said based on styles, Chris Eubank Jr. would give Gennady Golovkin a hard time. That's an individual matchup. You saw how bad Eubank looked in the first half of his fight against Billy Joe Saunders. You saw how bad he looked. Right? Well, my point to you is, Eubank isn't a guy who fights like Gilberto Ramirez, who fights like Andre Durrell. He's not going to be on the outside moving around, making foot speed an issue. No, he's going to be in the pocket slugging it out with Arthur Abraham. Isn't that what Arthur Abraham wants? What am I missing here? Right? I know Abraham's 37, folks. Power's the last to go. Trust me, Abraham still hits hard for his weight class. Now, you're telling me, at least the casino's trying to, that if these guys fought 5 times, that Chris Eubank would win 4 of the 5? Folks, I'm not buying it. Understand, when a fight's in the future, and the casino's making what I call mistakes along the way in advance of the fight, don't wait for the odds to adjust. If you're in a casino, if you're in a sports book and you're sitting down and they tell you, yeah, we're giving a plus 400 on Arthur Abraham against Chris Eubank, you need to say, whoa, must be December 25th. Let me get up here and at least lock in the Arthur Abraham at plus 400 right here. Right? You lock it in, you don't even care if the odds change later. Let's say the odds maker at the casino that says, gee, this line's really out of whack. Let me chop Arthur down to a plus 150 as the fight's in Wembley. Hey, you don't care about that. You're like, look, I have a legally valid and enforceable betting ticket here issued by this casino for plus 400. Let me point out, too, that when you get a deal like this on at least a part of the play, that gives you more hedging opportunities. Because if this hits, if Arthur Abraham wins any way possible, you have such a huge profit, right? Bet $1 to get back that dollar plus $4. You have such a huge profit that you can then shift that to other plays, right? So if you feel this is going to be a war in the trenches like I do, then you can, say, okay, well, let me take Eubank by KO. Even if Eubank by KO is less than even money, because you're getting 4 times even money on Arthur Abraham simply to win, you can actually shift some of the risk. Be on both sides of the play. So, because I think Arthur Abraham, number 1, has much better experience than Chris Eubank Jr. Much better. Number 2, hits as hard as Chris Eubank Jr. This isn't going to be Billy Joe Saunders in the second half of his fight against Chris Eubank. Right? You can't stalk Arthur Abraham. Maybe you can stick and move from the outside like Gilberto Ramirez did, but you're not going to be able to stalk Arthur Abraham because of the punching power. I'm expecting a fight in the trenches in that Eubank-Abraham fight. Hey, the fight's in the UK, great. The judges might not have a say, folks. What I want you to do is to look at Abraham's KO percentage, and this is after participating in the Super 6, fighting guys like Carl Froch. I mean, think about it. Abraham's fought the best, hasn't he? Durrell. Hasn't he fought Andre Ward too? Right? Think it through. Right? So, if the casino is going to give me a plus 400 on a guy who is going to be returning fire on Chris Eubank from up close, who wants Eubank not to run, sign me up. No need to put a bow on the package. Hey, The casino needs some fools to take the underdog here to make a market. I'll be the fool. I'm your Huckleberry. So I like Broner, plus 500, simply to win. We don't even have to say Broner by decision. Broner by K. No, simply to win. Plus 500, I'll take that. Arthur Abraham, simply to win. Plus 400, I'll take that. I know many of you say, gee, Dwyer, why here online do you so often fall in love with underdogs? It's because, guess what? Underdogs sometimes win fights. Guess what? When I get leverage on the underdog, that enables me to do things in hedging the bet with the favorite. So, I got such good odds. Go back and look at the pre-fight video. I got such good odds on Vladimir Klitschko that even this gambler who thought Klitschko was going to win the fight outright was recommending some of the money being spent on Joshua by KO. Guess what? Joshua got the KO. Guess what? This wrong gambler actually collected on that fight. Right? Same thing, Andre Ward, Kovalev. Right? In the post weigh-in video, I pointed out that, look, they're giving you a plus 360. Think about that. On the under 9.5 rounds. I never expected Andre Ward to get the stoppage. Guess what? I was in line with everybody else collecting after that fight. Right? So you want to take opportunities like this, where you're getting outsized odds on a plausible fighter, right? These odds will allow you to structure the bet. So you could be on both sides of the bet and get a profit if either hits. As it is, I feel Broner and Abraham have a very good chance of winning their fights. Right? If the casino is going to give me 5-to-1 odds on Broner and 4-to-1 odds on Arthur Abraham, maybe there are a bunch of people in the public who say, oh no, I don't want the long odds. Look, the whole purpose of gambling is to get advantageous odds. Right? Give me the advantageous odds here. We'll talk about hedging this as the lines develop and as the prop bets come on board. Anyway, that's how I see it. Let me hear from you. I hope you leave your comments in the comment section to this video. Thanks for stopping by.